My grandmother's nursing home was starving her. I noticed it during Sunday visits. She was losing weight. Her clothes hung loose. Her cheeks hollowed. "They feed me," she said when I asked. "I just don't have appetite anymore." But her eyes told a different story. Hungry, tired, something wrong. I started visiting at mealtimes, watched the staff deliver trays, watched my grandmother try to eat with arthritic hands that couldn't grip utensils properly, watched staff collect untouched food 30 minutes later without offering help. They weren't starving her deliberately. They were neglecting her systematically. I complained to the administrator. Nothing changed. I complained to state regulators. An inspection happened. The facility passed. Meals were served. Boxes were checked. But my grandmother kept losing weight. I installed a hidden camera in her room, watched the footage for a week. Staff delivered food and left immediately. My grandmother couldn't open containers with her hands, couldn't cut meat, couldn't lift heavy cups. She sat alone, staring at food she couldn't access, until someone collected the tray and marked that she'd eaten. In 1 week, she consumed maybe 20% of what was served to her. The rest was thrown away and documented as patient refused meal or patient not hungry. She wasn't refusing. She was physically incapable of feeding herself without assistance. I reviewed her care plan. It required feeding assistance at every meal. The documentation showed assistance was being provided. The documentation was lies. I researched the facility's staffing records, found they were operating at 40% of required staff levels, not enough workers to provide mandated care, so they falsified records instead. I contacted families of other residents, found the same pattern: weight loss, malnutrition, documentation showing care that never happened. We organized, collected evidence, filed complaints as a group. The state conducted a surprise inspection this time, found 12 residents severely malnourished, found medication logs that showed pills given to patients who'd been hospitalized elsewhere at the time, found wound care documentation for treatments that were never performed. The facility administrator was arrested for Medicaid fraud, billing the government for care that existed only on paper. The director of nursing lost her license. 3 supervisors faced criminal charges for falsifying medical records. My grandmother was transferred to a smaller facility with adequate staffing. Within 2 months, she'd gained 15 pounds. Her cheeks filled out, her eyes brightened. "The food is the same," she told me, "but someone sits with me now, helps me hold the fork." That's all she'd needed. Someone to help her eat. 12 families joined a lawsuit against the facility's parent company, won substantial settlements, used the money to fund an advocacy group that conducts surprise inspections at nursing homes across the state. My grandmother passed away last year, peacefully, in her sleep, at 94 years old. She spent her final 3 years properly fed, properly cared for, and surrounded by staff who actually did their jobs. Those years were a gift. Years she wouldn't have had if I hadn't noticed her hungry eyes. A healthcare advocacy organization requested an interview about nursing home neglect. How did you expose the facility's failures? I held up the hidden camera footage showing my grandmother unable to feed herself. They thought documentation was reality, that checking boxes meant providing care, that elderly patients couldn't advocate for themselves. I looked at the camera, but families can see what paperwork hides. Bodies tell truth that records can lie about. They built their fraud on our trust. We built our case on watching what actually happened.